Hello and welcome to another episode of What If It's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that is cool in the world today. I am the real Daniel Paul Crow, and on this episode, well, if you saw the last one, we had Jab, and now we have the real James Bolton. We talked briefly about his wrestling history, but we more go into details of his acting career and how exactly he got that role as Jeff Jarrett in Young Rock. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the real James Bolton. Now that the character work is all done, now let's reintroduce this episode to the real James Bolton. James, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for first being a character for that one. I don't know if you guys realize I couldn't keep a straight face. I had to keep covering my mouth, and that was fun.
That was fun, dude. I like doing things like that.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you're relatively new into the wrestling scene, but I want to talk about your acting work first before we go into that. How did you get into acting?
So when I was a kid, I wanted to be two things in life. I wanted to be Bartmann, and I wanted to be a Jedi. And
two very achievable things.
Very,
yeah.
Right? And I used to walk around the house in a Batman suit, like when I was 4 years old. And I wouldn't answer to James. I'd answer to Batman. Like I thought I had everyone convinced that I was Batman. Anyway, one day I think I might have been watching Star Wars, and I asked my dad, how do you become a Jedi? And he said, well, they're all actors. And I said, all right, well, that's what I'll be then. But that was kind of like the very infant stages of me like wanting to be that one day. But then, sort of childhood ends and life runs away with you type thing, and I go into adolescence and whatever, and I was very much like an outcast as a kid, and I kind of forgot about all that. Oh, how do you become a Jedi? All right, I'll be an actor type stuff. And I just kind of was pretty sad in school. School really wasn't for me. I wasn't very good at it. I wasn't a very smart kid or anything like that, but I loved drama class because I didn't have to think. It was an escape, and there was no answers. I got to make up the answers. And I always thought that was the coolest. So then fast forward, I was 16. And drama was my favorite subject, but I never amounted to any kind of aspiration. And I had my first bout of depression. And a teacher at my high school, this is up on the Gold Coast, asked, she was sort of looking out for me, trying to help me out. She was a family friend as well. And she asked me, well, what do you like doing at school? Like, what subjects do you like? I said, I only like drama because I don't have to think. She said, okay, well, there's auditions soon for the High School Musical. They're doing Grease next year. Why don't you audition to be in it? She's trying to give me some sort of a path.
Yeah.
And I went, whatever, man, maybe. I kind of look for ways out of it. And then I stared at the audition, where you write your name down to say that you'll audition for it. I stared at it for days and days and days until I finally went, screw it. And I wrote my name and I auditioned and I got the lead role. God knows why. And that was my first play that I did. And once I did that, and I was 16 at that time, and I said, this is me now. This is it. This is what I do. And this is how I identify. I don't do other things anymore.
Right. What was it about that play that got you really into acting? Was it just because you felt very confident playing that role, or was there something else that sort of came from it?
Honestly, it could have been any play, I think. I don't think it mattered what it was. It just happened to be Grease. But whatever it would have been, I would have obsessed over it. Like nothing else in the world would have existed. For those few months that we were rehearsing, I was in year 11 at this time. So, the world isn't taking Benoa High's production of Grease super seriously. But I would just like watch it on repeat and study John Travolta and just like really study the voice and learn how to do the voice and all of this. So it wasn't anything particularly to do with it. If anything, Danny Zuko, which is the character I played in Grease, was the antithesis of me because I wasn't the cool kid in school. I was super shy. I'd never kissed a girl, nothing, right? My first kiss in my life was on stage doing Grease.
Wow.
I was sweet 16, never been kissed. And my first kiss was written in a script. Yeah, so it was very anti me, but whatever it was, I was gonna sort of dive in head first. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
But what got you into wrestling? Was it because of the drama aspect of that, or were you always a fan?
Probably because of the drama aspect on some level, but the truth is, when I was 7, I got into wrestling, which is probably
Mm,
a popular age to get into wrestling.
usually is.
So it was about, yeah. So I was about 97, 98. And you know what? I was one of these kids, probably explains the Jedi thing too. I could never just love something and just love it as a thing that exists outside of me.
Mm,
If I love something, I had to be it. And there might be a better way of explaining that, or there might be a name for that. But if I, for example, if I loved baseball as a kid, I would have had no other aspiration in life but to be a baseball player. I couldn't just sit there and watch baseball.
mm,
Now, I'm not a baseball fan, but I'm a wrestling fan. So the first time I ever saw a photo of The Undertaker, which is before I'd even actually watched wrestling, I saw a photo before I ever watched it, and I decided I was hooked. And I said, I want to be him. Whatever he does, I want to do that.
mm.
And then when I watched it, I played it on video games and things. I went, oh, so it's fighting, but it's allowed. And I was a very non-violent kid, very sort of goody two shoes, and look both ways when you cross the road. But I was coming to that late childhood phase as a little boy that, you've got those sort of, I guess, you're a boy at the end of the day.
Mm.
And the thought of violence that wasn't forbidden by mum and dad was really appealing to me. And I got hooked, but I couldn't just get hooked. I was like, I'm going to be a wrestler. And, you say that and people laugh and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, of course you will.
Mm.
And you know, that's why I never really pursued it until later. But yeah, it was sort of there in the back of my mind, really for my whole life post 7 years old. It was there in the back of my mind, like, you know what I really want to do? That.
Mm.
Mm.
That's really cool. Where did you study acting?
I studied at a place called VCA, which is the Victorian College of the Arts.
Yep.
So there are basically three sort of, they call them the big three acting schools in Australia: NIDA, WAPA, and VCA, which are in Sydney, Perth, and Melbourne, respectively. And after I finished high school, I started auditioning for each of them, and I got into VCA. So that's why I moved to Melbourne.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it because obviously have a lot of people that do listen to this, and how hard was that audition? Because I know I auditioned for NIDA, and
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember if I even got in. It's so long ago, but I remember I got into one of these prestigious schools, and unfortunately, just circumstances didn't allow me to do it. Talk us through the audition process for that.
So they're different for each school. The NIDA ones for the school in Sydney, they're notoriously cutthroat, or certainly they were when I was auditioning. VCA was very, I wouldn't say gentle. It wasn't gentle, but they were probably a bit more personable, I found, the
Right.
people that were conducting it. But it went over the course of a couple of weeks.
Mm.
So, they travel, these schools travel the country, kind of like scouts.
Yeah.
And they hold these auditions. And so I auditioned in Brisbane, and there would be, say, 40 of us in the morning, and we would do some acting exercises, warm-ups, things like this as a group. We would do an audition monologue, which would, I believe for VCA, it had to be a Shakespeare monologue.
Mm-hmm.
And at lunchtime, they would send maybe 70% of those people home. And it was kind of, thank you for your time. And then it was like Willy Wonka. And then the rest of us are sort of there for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And we would do a second monologue, which was one that we had devised ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We would perform that monologue. It had to be something kind of autobiographical, but display your acting skills.
Yeah.
And then you would be told at the end of the day which of you are invited back the next week for the final round. And that might be 7 of you from the state. And then after that, you get your acceptance letters if you're in and whatnot. So it's quite, it is a very emotionally grueling thing to go through, especially if you're sort of 19 to 21 years old like I was. And you're doing it for all the big 3 acting schools. It's, you can't put all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah, I remember it was very stressful when I did it, but I didn't go through that. It was from memory, it was like I did the one day thing, but it was only one day. You didn't have to come back for another one. But then they go, this is almost 20 years ago. I'm old.
Yeah.
But yeah. Uh, how did you because obviously it is a stressful time doing that sort of stuff, and obviously you would have got some rejections here and there. How did you deal with that?
Um, you, you just do. I don't know. You just do. You start hearing no for a living.
Mm,
Like that's kind of what being an actor is for the first. Well, depending on who you are and how long it takes you, but I mean, I heard no for a living for 15 years, full time.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to say how you deal with it because you don't have a choice. You either do or you decide to not be an actor anymore, and that never felt like a choice to me. So you just, I suppose, you learn over time to not necessarily seeing it as I wasn't good at the audition. I'm just not the guy they're looking for.
Right.
And sometimes the most minute details can make those decisions for you. Like when I was 18, I was shortlisted to be the next Red Power Ranger, and it was between me and one other guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't watch Power Rangers, so I don't know which series this was.
Damn it, that was going to be my
But
next question. Which one it was? Because I would love
I
to know
know
which one.
whichever one filmed in New Zealand. I was told I was going to be filming in New
There's
Zealand.
multiple of them, mate.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of them, and I was told it was between me and one other guy, and God, I think it came down to just who fit it. The suit was already made, and it was just down to who could fit in the suit or something. And I'm
Right.
not saying that as if I were an inch taller or shorter, I would have gotten it. No, maybe I still wouldn't have. But it is a lesson in how detailed these decisions really are.
Like, I would love to see you in Power Rangers. I reckon you would make a great
Right?
Ranger. Yeah.
Black belt, dude. Come on. I love red.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh, you
I'm
could
not.
be like any of the color Rangers. You'd be great. I just, you know what?
Thanks.
Anyone from who makes Power Rangers now? Because it's not Saban anymore. I think it's Nickelodeon. Whoever makes Power Rangers, get this man on Power Rangers for sake. I mean, look at him.
Let's go. Let's
First and
go.
foremost, he's good looking. I mean, just look at him. And two, he's a black belt. Come on.
If I can't be Batman, let me be a Power Ranger.
No. You could be Batman, but let's just let's just Robert Pattinson. Let him do one other film, and then you audition, you get it, and then bang.
You know what's funny, man? I after the Dark Knight trilogy came out,
Mm.
I loved them. They're like my favorite movies, and I was so annoyed at how much I loved them because I went, they've finished Batman. They've finished it.
Mm.
They've actually completed it because they've perfected it. They've made it real. And that means I can't be Batman because they'll never make another Batman movie now. Then I thought, maybe one day I'll make the next Batman movie. And I would talk about this to people and go, if there's ever going to be another Batman movie, and I'm not kidding you, this is actually what I said. I said it would have to be almost a film noir movie.
Yeah.
It would have to be so dimly lit with dark color grading, most of the movie happening in night. It would rain for most of the movie. It would be more similar to The Crow than it is to any superhero movie we've seen. And it would have a completely different sound. It would have something like Nirvana as the Batman song. I'm not kidding. It sounds like I'm kidding. I'm not.
Wow. Like,
And what happened?
Oh.
And they gave it to Edward Cullen. And he did a great job. But damn.
Hey, he's dropped out of movies before. Maybe he drops out the next one, and you pick up the pieces, but
Maybe I can be the Maggie Gyllenhaal to his Kate Holmes. I don't know.
you never know. Oh God. Speaking of your roles and everything, how did the role for you as Jeff Jarrett happen in Young Rock?
Well, I've told this story once before, but I kind of enjoy it. It's the middle of lockdown.
Yep.
I'm scrolling through Instagram, and I see a photo of a guy that I met 10 years prior at my first NIDA audition, which was my first ever drama school audition. And his name's Uli, and he was one of the current students at NIDA, sort of coming to facilitate and help the auditionees, one of whom was me. And I always made a point to keep him on my social media or whatever, because I really respected him. I wanted to see what he was doing with his career. And I remember on that day at my NIDA audition, he came up to me and helped me with my monologue, and he really calmed my nerves because I was very anxious. And I never really got to properly thank him for that, but he really did help. Anyway, I saw this photo of Uli, and I went, oh, what's he up to? And I noticed Uli didn't post the photo. The Rock posted the photo. And I had to do like a triple take. I had to do a triple take. And why is The Rock posting about this kid that I met in Brisbane? And he was announcing that he was going to play him in this new sitcom about his life. And I had two thoughts in this order. Man, I'm so happy for him because he's such a lovely guy. And it couldn't have gone to a more deserving person. And the second thought was, I've got to get myself on that show. Because if I can marry my two worlds together, and I'd only really just recently had my first match in wrestling.
Yeah.
But I thought I can bump and I can act and I can da-da-da-da. I've got to get on this. So anyway, it was already cast. Life goes on. Then, because I found out that it filmed on the Gold Coast, which is my hometown. Then I found out it got greenlit for season 2. Oh, great. So I called my agent and I said, listen, I will give an arm and a leg to be on this show. This is my new mission in life, is to get an audition on this show. I don't care if I sweep the sets. I want to be involved. So she said, let's kind of do our best. And I auditioned for a couple of roles. Like I got a few, and every time I got an audition for Young Rock, you couldn't talk to me for 2 weeks. I couldn't think about anything else. So my first audition was for a football player. It was for like the quarterback, which actually wound up going to one of my best friends. And then the second audition was for Jerry the King Lawler.
Whoa, really?
I am not Jerry the King Lawler.
No.
But I took it super seriously, and I thought I probably won't get this role, but I'll treat it as an audition for the next audition kind of thing.
Yeah.
I got in the ring with JXT. I said, all right, we got to do a Jerry Lawler match. And we did a full Memphis style match. And I'm doing Memphis punches and all that kind of stuff. Then I find out they're auditioning for the role of Jeff Jarrett. And the reason I knew is because another friend of mine got an audition. And I thought I could only name one wrestler from the 80s that I'm the same height and same weight as, because they were huge back then.
Yes, they were.
And it's Jeff Jarrett, and I've got long hair. I can do this. So I reached out to my agent. I said, there's a specific role I need an audition for. I need it because I would smash that role. I've never cashed in this chip before, but I'm cashing it in now. I'm telling you I will book this.
Yeah.
Got the audition, booked it. I found out that I booked it when I was on the set of Shantaram, which is this Apple TV show. So like the first person outside of my partner at the time, one of the first people to find out that I booked the role was Charlie Hunnam.
Whoa, okay. Yeah.
Jackson from Sons of Anarchy. He saw the look on my, because he was the main actor in Shantaram. Yeah. And he saw the look on my face, and he goes, "How you going?" And I'm like, "Really good, dude." He's like, "What happened?" And I said, "I just booked an acting role that might change my life." And I could see in his eyes he probably had a bit of a flashback to when he had a moment like that. And I got a big fist bump from Charlie Hunnam, which is kind of a bizarre moment in itself. And there it was. And I was, for the first time ever, being paid to go back to my hometown and film something.
That's fantastic.
It was
No, I'm going to save the question for later.
Just quickly, shout
Yes.
out. Tommy Hellfire bought me this, and it is damn delicious. This is Johnny Walker Gold Label. I'm not endowed enough in the wallet to buy this kind of a thing, but Tommy Hellfire is apparently. So thanks, Tommy.
Hey, he's got what is that? Married at First Sight money, isn't it? Is it what the show he was on?
And he's got that PCW main eventer money. That's what he's got.
Yeah, that too.
He's got that I just beat Wake money.
And that's not an easy thing to do. He is a very
See, I didn't beat Wake, so I don't have that kind of money.
No. Oh, I reckon you can. Wake don't kick my ass when I say this, but I reckon you can beat Wake eventually.
Yeah, well, I had him beat. I had him beat anyway.
Yeah. So obviously you got the role as Jeff Jarrett, Double J. Firstly, can I just say that you are the only one who actually looks like somebody from that era during season 2, because everyone looks nothing like who they're supposed to. Like, no one in the nation looks like the guy who plays Triple H. And I'm not bagging anyone on the show. I'm just saying they do not look like anyone who they're meant to be portraying. But they do really good voices and everything.
I think the voices are on point.
Yes.
I think casting a bunch of wrestlers from the 80s and the 90s, there's a reason they were stars, and it's because no one looked like them.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot cast these people. And I mean, yeah, like it got a big beating on Twitter. God, I remember like just constantly seeing, the bashings for the castings, and yeah, like I get it, but yeah, just no one looks like those people. No. I do think though, and I'm glad I get to say this because I hit it off really good with him. A guy named Patrick Cox played Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh my God, I seriously thought that was Bam Bam's son or something.
How much did he look like Bam Bam? And here's a funny thing about that.
Yeah.
Is Patrick Cox was a wrestler back in the 90s. And he, as a kid, he saw me on set, right? When we're out at the trailers and whatever. And I had just gotten my hair bleached. So it was just all happening. And I think I just put the costume on for the first time on set. And he had just arrived and he was coming out to go into makeup. And he looked at me and straight away when he's like, man, that's got to be Jeff Jarrett. Oh, my God. And I was like, great, because everybody else thought I was playing Ric Flair. But thank you. Because the second they saw the bleached blonde hair, they're like, are you Ric Flair? I'm going to drunk guys on the street in Surfers Paradise go, it's Ric Flair. But no, he was like, that's got to be Jeff Jarrett. And I was like, yeah man, that's got to be Bam Bam Bigelow. And he said, dude, I used to grow up watching Jeff Jarrett live at the, the Mid-South, the Mid-South Coliseum. That he actually used to go to these shows as a kid. And he wound up as an adult while he was a wrestler. He was a security guard for WCW.
Oh, okay.
He used to go out partying with the WCW guys, including Jeff Jarrett and Bam Bam Bigelow.
Whoa!
He knew Bam Bam personally before he passed, so it was a huge deal for him to get to play and pay homage to Bam Bam, this old friend of his. And I got in touch with Jeff as well, and he and I are friends now. So those were cool stories on set where people sort of had personal connections to the people they were playing. But yeah, I think he was one that probably deserves the same credit, if I do, that he definitely looked a lot like his character.
Oh, no, I think you two are the only people that look like the characters you were portraying.
I'll take it.
All right, I gotta. This is probably the only time I'm ever gonna have Jeff Jarrett on What If It's Cool. Can you say slapnuts in his voice for me? You know, just the way he would do it.
Well, I'll tell you what I can say. I can say it in a full sentence, and I'm going to say, choke on that, Slappy.
Oh my God, Jeff Jarrett. This guy is the man. And
you know what, dude? Like, he asked me in the first conversation we ever had together. This is on YouTube. He goes, Can you do me to me as an 18-year-old? Because I played Jeff when he was 18.
Yeah.
At first, I played him at an older age as well, but at first I was only going to play him as an 18-year-old. The other scenes got added.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to him that my audition piece, for my audition, I added a 1 minute ad lib of me cutting a promo as Jeff at 18 in USWA. And he's like, "Can you do it to me?" And I was like, okay. And I was doesn't read well on Zoom, but all right. And so I sort of did him, and I got a good laugh, popped him, which was cool. And he said it took him back. So.
Oh God! Make sure to check that out on YouTube. But that's on your YouTube channel, right?
That's on my YouTube. So it's on my wrestling YouTube, which is Jab Pro Wrestler.
All right, definitely got to plug that because Well, you've shown me most of it, and I thought that was. Oh God, I had goosebumps watching that video with you and Jeff. I was just like, you were so calm and collected. After this, me, I was like, "Hi, Mr. Jarrett.
Dude.
I'm such a fan."
Man, I was anything but calm and collected, and I think I added to be like it was kind of confronting to do, but I added to that video on YouTube the bits before Jeff answered the call, where I was rehearsing talking to him, talking to myself. Sort of nervously sipping my coffee and just kind of freaking out. I was actually marking out for the first 5 minutes or so until we kind of warmed into it and figured out what our dynamic was. But yeah, man, it was. I told him, I was like, I'm a mark for this, and he said it too. As he was marking out for the fact that he was talking to somebody that was playing him. So we both got a kick out of it.
Yeah. Well, he looked like he had a lot of fun talking to you, and vice versa. So that was seriously cool. Now we're near the end of the conversation because, well, we've talked a lot. We talked to you being in character as Jab, and a bit heartbreaking because it's been so fun. But I have to ask a staple question here at What If It's Cool. What is something that you find cool that nobody else does?
Wrestling, no. What is something that I find cool that nobody else does? That's a good one. I should have prepared, right? You'd have thought that I'd have brought my answer ready in the chamber for that one. The history of religion.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say nobody else finds it cool, but I think that most people that find it cool do so because they are themselves religious. But I, from almost like not just an archaeological point of view, but a sociological, which I'm really into. I'm really into sociology. I'm fascinated by it and why people are the way they are. And from a study of humankind, what created this dynamic that we each have, how and why do we look up, as I call it? What are the different ways we do it? How are those ways influenced? I am such a mark for things like that. I love that kind of research. I go down the rabbit hole constantly of the history of religion and mythology and philosophy.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, finally, where can all our listeners, all our viewers, all our fans find you on all your socials?
All right, so I've got two of everything. Because as you've seen before, I like to, if I'm Jab, I'm Jab. I don't want to confuse people with this.
Yep.
So on Instagram, actually on everything, as Jab, I am This Is Jab. Use underscores as spaces. So at This Is Jab on Instagram, etc. And as an actor, I'm James Bolton Actor on Instagram and everything else. And that's where you'll see anything that I'm doing on set, or actually anything that I'm doing in my real life.
All right. Well, James, thank you so much for being part of the show. It's been great talking to you, and I can't wait to see what's next for you, not only just in acting, but in wrestling as well, because I think you're an absolute fucking star. Thank you for being part of What If It's Cool.
Thank you, man. This was a lot of fun. It was a real pleasure.
Anytime. And that's the end of that episode. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Want more for What If It's Cool? Make sure to check out the YouTube channel where you can find the latest episodes of Mukbang Around, Reaction, and of course, the vodcast. And don't forget to follow What If It's Cool on all socials. It can be found at What If It's Cool. Keep that support coming. And until next time, I'll catch you on next one. Peace.